Hello super nerds, welcome to the channel. In X-Men, Omega level mutants are considered the most powerful mutants with abilities that can affect the fabric of reality, space-time, and other fundamental aspects of the universe. While the concept of Omega level is used to highlight mutants with exceptional power, there are cases where characters initially categorized as Omega level lost this classification. In today's video, we will talk about heroes who were once classified as Omega level but later lost that classification. If you enjoy hero stories and comics as much as we do at Hero Circle, it's very important that you leave a like to support the channel. I hope you can subscribe. After all, the channel is still new and I intend to bring a lot of content to you. Without further ado, let's get straight to the video. Rachel Summers, Marvel Girl Art Phoenix 2. Rachel Summers, also known as Marvel Girl and Phoenix II, is a central character in the X-Men universe, created by Chris Claremont and John Byrne. She is the daughter of Scott Summers, Cyclops, and Jean Grey, Phoenix, from an alternate reality, Earth 811, also known as the Days of Future Past timeline. In this timeline, mutants are hunted by Sentinels, and Rachel grows up in an environment of constant persecution and struggle for survival. Rachel possesses exceptional telepathic and telekinetic abilities inherited from her parents. Her telepathy allows her to read minds, project thoughts, and manipulate memories, while her telekinesis gives her the power to move objects, create shields, and manipulate matter on a molecular level. In addition to these abilities, Rachel also has the unique ability of chrono-skimming, which allows her to send her consciousness or that of others through time. For a significant period of her life, Rachel was a host for the Phoenix Force, a cosmic entity of immeasurable power that amplified her abilities to extraordinary levels. With the Phoenix Force, Rachel could manipulate matter and energy on a cosmic scale, making her one of the most powerful mutants in the Marvel Universe, classifying her as an Omega level mutant. However, Rachel's classification as Omega level was removed for several reasons. The most significant was the loss of the Phoenix Force. Without this entity, her powers diminished substantially. The Phoenix Force not only amplified her abilities, but also granted her capabilities that transcended the normal limits of mutants. Without this force, Rachel was left with only her telepathic and telekinetic abilities, which, while still powerful, no longer reached the same cosmic level. Additionally, Rachel's evolution as a character in the comics was influenced by various editorial and narrative changes over the years. Different writers and editors had their own visions of the character and her powers, resulting in varied representations of her abilities. In some stories, her powers were deliberately limited or weakened to fit the needs of the narrative or to explore other aspects of her personality and story. These variations in Rachel's representations reflect a common trend in superhero comics, where the power and capabilities of characters can fluctuate based on the needs of the stories and the creative visions of the writers. Although Rachel lost her Omega level classification, she remains a formidable and essential character in the X-Men universe with a rich history of resilience, struggle, and personal growth. Bobby Drake, Iceman. Bobby Drake, also known as Iceman, is one of the founding members of the X-Men, created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, first appearing in X-Men #1 in 1963. Bobby has the ability to manipulate ambient temperature, allowing him to create and control ice in various forms. His abilities include generating ice from moisture in the air, creating ice ramps and bridges, transforming his body into organic ice, and projecting cold blasts. Initially, Bobby's abilities were portrayed relatively modestly, mainly limited to creating simple ice forms and transforming his body into a partially covered ice form. However, over the years, as writers and editors delved deeper into his capabilities, it became clear that his potential was much greater. Bobby Drake's classification as an Omega level mutant is due to the discovery that he could do much more with his powers than he initially believed. Bobby can manipulate water molecules in any physical state, allowing him not only to create ice, but also to alter the temperature of his surroundings with extreme precision. He can reconstruct his body from water molecules, essentially making himself immortal as long as there is sufficient moisture available. Additionally, Bobby has demonstrated the ability to create and control ice duplicates of himself, further extending his abilities. For a time, these advanced abilities justified his classification as an Omega level mutant, which is reserved for mutants whose abilities have no known or practical limits. However, Bobby's Omega level classification was questioned and even lost for a period due to several factors. First, Bobby often underestimated and did not fully utilize the potential of his powers. He frequently saw himself himself more as a team member than as one of the most powerful mutants, and his personal insecurities and lack of proper training limited the full expression of his abilities. In various phases of the comics, writers chose to focus on other aspects of his personality and development, relegating his advanced abilities to the background. Additionally, editorial perception and changes in the definitions of Omega level over the years influenced his classification. The Omega level classification is a fluid concept subject to re-evaluation as characters and their stories evolve. In periods when writers emphasized the limits or challenges Bobby faced with his powers, his Omega level classification was called into question. Eventually, with a deeper exploration of his powers and the development of his confidence and control over his abilities, Bobby's classification as an Omega level mutant was reaffirmed. He came to be recognized as one of Marvel's most powerful mutants, with almost unlimited control over temperature and water in all its forms. Bobby Drake's journey with the X-Men exemplifies how personal evolution and self-awareness can reveal hidden potentials. His story is not just about his incredible mutant abilities, but also about his growth as an individual, overcoming insecurities and embracing his true potential. Gabriel Summers, Vulcan. Gabriel Summers, better known as Vulcan, is a character in the X-Men universe whose story is marked by trauma, vengeance, and immense power. Created by Ed Brubaker and Trevor Hairsine, Vulcan was introduced to the public in the miniseries X-Men Deadly Genesis in 2006. He is the younger brother of Scott Summers, Cyclops, and Alex Summers, Havoc. Gabriel was kidnapped in utero by the alien race Shi'ar, who used advanced technology to accelerate his birth and growth, transforming him into a slave. Eventually, he managed to escape and return to Earth, where he was rescued by Professor Xavier and trained as part of an X-Men team that preceded the classic members. However, a tragic incident left him stranded in space until he was awakened years later. Vulcan possesses incredibly vast energy manipulation abilities. He can absorb, manipulate, and project various forms of energy, including light, heat, electricity, and radiation. Additionally, he can use this energy to fly, create powerful explosions, and even manipulate energy at a molecular level. These capabilities placed Gabriel in the Omega level mutant category, as he can affect vast areas and face formidable adversaries. However, Vulcan's Omega level classification has not always been stable. Several factors contributed to the loss of this classification. Firstly, the narrative and character development influenced how his powers were portrayed. In many stories, the focus was more on his internal conflicts, betrayals, and quest for vengeance rather than his ability to manipulate energy on a cosmic scale. This shift in focus may have led to a diminished perception of his true potential. Additionally, Gabriel's emotional and psychological state played a crucial role. Vulcan often struggled with anger, vengeance, and past traumas, which affected his stability and effectiveness in utilizing his powers to the fullest. His relentless pursuit of revenge against those he believed betrayed him, including the X-Men and the Shi'ar Empire, often led to impulsive decisions that limited the full expression of his abilities. The definition of an Omega-level mutant has also varied over the years, influenced by editorial changes and the evolution of the Marvel Universe. During certain periods, Vulcan was depicted more as a powerful adversary and less as an Omega-level mutant, especially when compared to other characters who consistently maintained this classification. His defeats and strategic failures, particularly during his campaigns as Emperor of the Shi'ar Empire, contributed to this perception. Despite these fluctuations in classification, Vulcan remains one of the most formidable and influential mutants in the Marvel Universe. His journey is marked by personal tragedies, a quest for identity and power, and intergalactic conflicts that profoundly impacted the Shi'ar Empire and the X-Men. Gabriel Summers' story illustrates the complexity of power and human potential, demonstrating that the Omega-level classification is just one aspect of a much richer and multifaceted narrative. Magneto, Eric Lensherr. Eric Lensherr, better known as Magneto, is one of the most iconic and complex characters in the X-Men universe. Created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, he first appeared in X-Men #1 in 1963. Magneto is a Holocaust survivor, and his traumatic experiences from a young age shaped his worldview, leading him to believe in the necessity of a radical approach to ensure the survival of mutants. Magneto has the ability to generate and control magnetic fields, allowing him to manipulate metallic objects, fly, and create create powerful defensive shields. His abilities are vast and include the capacity to affect the molecular structure of metal, manipulate the iron in people's blood, and even create electromagnetic pulses to disable electronics. For these reasons, he has frequently been classified as an Omega-level mutant, especially when his powers were at their peak. However, over the years, there have been moments when Magneto lost this classification. This change occurred for several reasons, mainly linked to story narratives and editorial decisions. In certain story arcs, Magneto suffered severe injuries or faced physical and psychological limitations that temporarily weakened his powers. For example, in some stories, he lost his powers completely or had his magnetic control ability drastically reduced due to external interventions such as genetic or technological manipulations. Additionally, the writer's vision of the character influenced how his powers were portrayed. In phases where the focus was more on his leadership and ideology, his mutant abilities were not as emphasized. Magneto was often depicted as a brilliant strategist and charismatic leader whose strength derived as much from his sharp mind as from his mutant abilities. This narrative approach may have contributed to a temporary perception that he was not on the same level as other Omega-level mutants. See you in the next video. Take care, heroes.